What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube, and today I've got another edition of The Drive-In, where I watch recently released films and tell you guys whether they're worth watching, worth waiting for, or worth skipping altogether. I just came from the theater to see one of my most anticipated films of 2022 that I didn't even know was going to be out in 2022 at the start of this year. I'm talking about the prequel to X, Pearl, 2022's Pearl. We all saw X at the beginning of the year, and I've got a review of that movie on my channel already, so if you guys want to see my full review of X before you watch this, go check that out. That is on this channel already, so just type that in. But I'm watching the prequel now. As soon as the movie of X finished, there was the little teaser trailer that my friends and I really weren't sure if it was going to be an actual movie or just a little like commercial or a little spoof or whatever, like an Eli Roth kind of trailer thing. We didn't know what to expect. Sure enough, Pearl was filmed right after and in conjunction with X. They shot them back to back, which is amazing in itself. And it is the second of this universe and what looks to be at least a new potential trilogy. You guys probably have seen the news out there. There are more of these coming. But I went in to see Pearl today, and I'll get into the stats before I get into all of my notes about this film. But Pearl is an hour and 42 minutes in total, and stay for the post-credits just in case you weren't aware of that. Written by Mia Goth and Ty West, directed once again by Ty West, and starring Mia Goth as Pearl, Tandy Wright as Ruth, and David Corenswet as the projectionist. And this is the prequel, basically, of X, so the character of Pearl, who was played in a dual role by Mia Goth in the last film. She played one of the main protagonists as well as Pearl. This movie kind of shows the start of Pearl in 1918, as she is a young farmhand serving for her family, who is Russian and trying to stay in the outskirts of things, staying isolated with the Spanish flu. The pandemic of 1918 is being showcased in this film. So it is a character study of Pearl to see how she got to be the way she got to be in X. And I've got to say, number one, you guys know I love slashers on this channel. But I've got to say, my new favorite thing, I think, even more than slashers, usurping and overtaking slashers as my favorite subgenre of horror, has got to be these character studies. I love a good character study, whether it's one character, 10 characters, whatever. I love delving into the mind of somebody, especially when that mind has duality to it. And I gotta say, this review, if you guys don't like Mia Goth, this is the wrong review for you. This video essay of mine is gonna be, extemporaneously off the top of my head, a love letter to Mia Goth. I am such a fan of what she's done. I had never really seen her in anything until I saw her in X, and now I'm seeing the multi-talented facets of her. She played, again, a angry old woman as well as a young protagonist in the first movie. And in this movie, she served as the main character of Pearl, as a young lady, also as the co-writer of the film based on Ty West's characters, and an executive producer. This girl is like 29 years old. She's very young. She has not even really hit the peak of her career yet. My God, look how multifaceted and talented she is, not just behind the scenes and writing such a great script and producing and helping out with all other facets as well in building this world that A24 is putting together, but the acting on screen is standout. That is my first note on the pros of this list, is Mia Goth. Now, the acting in total is great. The character of Ruth is really important in this. That's Mia Goth's mother. She's great. Mia Goth's father, who plays kind of an invalid who has been infected with the Spanish flu, I believe it's called, is also good in this. And the projectionist, who kind of plays a pseudo love interest kind of a character for Mia Goth, is great in this too. There are no bad parts in this. Everyone plays nice levels, moments of aggression, moments of tension, moments of nervousness. Everyone's great in this, but Mia Goth just shines. There are some long takes that just hold on her face. And again, long takes I'll get into is another big positive in this movie. But there are long takes that just hold on Mia Goth, whether it's monologues, whether it's just facials, whether it's the overly happy, cheerful smile, whether it's the multiple levels of inner turmoil she's facing, whether it's showing different emotions on her face as it starts out happy and goes to sad, or vice versa. Mia Goth, just with her face, tells so much of this story, and with simple lines really gives you an insight into who this character is. I'm such a fan of her work in this movie. She is one to watch out for me going forward, and should be for all of you as well. The credits are a big positive in this film. I don't usually talk about credits in this film, but again, this film goes back to 1918, and it serves as such a starlit kind of Hollywood dream credits. You have this really big groundswell of music, this kind of almost operatic style of like Hollywood girl coming of age kind of style music, while you get these big white bulky credits that are these kind of like soap opera-ish Leave It to Beaver kind of style credits from back in the day. They really represent the 1918 style very well, and just like I thought one of X's biggest positives was the 1970s and how authentic the time period felt, and how everything from the set to the credits to the acting to the dialects, everything felt authentic to its time period. This film does the same. I really enjoy how Pearl feels like a 1918 film, from the credits to the music, everything. There's such... the music is done so well in this. The credits are they're long and drawn out, and they have a purpose, and they draw your eye to the credits, and they are used in the background of really important scenes and kind of establishing facial expressions, establishing location. They use the credits very well in this, and it feels very period effective. I love when something that is this archaic and ancient as far as 1918 is portrayed so well and so authentically on film. It feels so genuine and so unsettling at the same time. It's comforting while also being creepy. That is a big time benefit to the composer and Ty West and Mia Goth for the writing and producing of this film. Next big positive, long takes. I said it before, I'm going to say it here. There are some really unsettling long takes in this. From Mia Goth's big monologue in the third half, the third triumvirate of this film, where she's unveiling some things. You get some long takes where there's just meant to be like single tears and facial changes that are done really chillingly, intensely. A lot of times whenever they're trying to build tension, you rely on music and you rely on kind of just sitting still with nothing underneath it. This film really relies on Mia Goth in particular, and the camera just being still and watching her and how effective she can be. Again, a credit to the acting and the choices by the cinematographer to stay on her for so long. They say that it's really important, like at least once every 30 seconds, to change your camera angle so your viewer's not bored or your viewer doesn't kind of zone out. You cannot zone out when you're getting long shots like this. There also are long shots where there are long takes of continuous shots, like the Halloween shot in 78. When they move around quite a bit, it's a long take where they're moving around, they're on dollies, they're on drones, they're handheld, they're moving around the house. You get long takes like this where the angle changes and you're getting the camera's POV, but things are happening. They're very in focus, they're very, every step is measured. The take is super long, but it's very effective because it's building tension and you know something is going to happen. You're just not sure what point it's going to hit at, and it hits properly every time. Excellent camera work. 1918 is a plus for me here. Again, period authentic. I really enjoy the way they used everything, from the dialects to the credits to the clothes to the hair. Everything feels legit. A24, as much as I give them crap and I don't like their stuff, as good as they did in X with the whole location and everything and making it feel authentic, it does it more so in this one. This one is really good for authentic period. Meta. I have Meta as a big plus here because they're talking again about wearing masks and kind of trying to get away and trying to get out in the fresh air and hiding who you are. And the pandemic is mentioned by word in this, which obviously was effective 100 years ago, but is as effective today with the pandemic we've been going through with the coronavirus. I hope I don't get taken down for saying that word. I know YouTube is weird about that word, but I really enjoy the meta aspects because we're going through a pandemic now 100 years later, and they're setting this 100 years ago when the last pandemic was. So you get a lot of winks and nods to, hey, we're still going through this today. A lot of these lines can be applicable to us today, trying to get out to the fresh air, trying to not be isolated. A lot of the feelings of depression and things we've gone through in the pandemic for being isolated and missing out on our lives and our opportunities are big themes in this movie. So not only are they really good character themes that makes it make sense for Mia Goth, but also for us as the viewer, we can understand and relate to it because we just went through this in 2020 with what happened in the real world. So it's meta and clever at the same time as being applicable to this dark character study. What a smart choice that was. Also want to talk about location. Again, they put us back in the farmhouse from X, and it feels well colored. It feels wide open and yet still tense and trapping. Mia Goth's character feels trapped in a lot of senses, that she can't get her big break and get out of the situation she's trapped in, and that the location really feeds to that. You see cornfields that are great. You see alligator moats that are great. You see the farmhouse and the barn with the animals. Everything just looks really sharp and really authentic, and I love the environment in this film. Again, to be wide open and still feel tense and still feel like you're trying to get out of there is a rare combination, and Ty West and company hit it on the nose this time. Psycho, I have in quotes Psycho. This film kind of feels like Psycho to me. It's kind of like Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, kind of that old made-for-TV film back in the, I don't know exactly what era, I want to say 60s. It's kind of like Baby Jane, the competitive nature of the sisters and kind of the desire for fame and fortune and getting your name out there as a star. That is what Pearl wants. You see a bit of that in X. You see it much more here. You see her desires come out on screen. And this character study just feels like that maniac psycho kind of 60s to 80s Renaissance, when you had these kind of one character studies where you see these characters devolve and get darker and deeper and things set them off. And you get that with Pearl here. I really enjoy that kind of homage to Psycho for me, and those like 60s to 80s one character slashers that you're like, oh, this person is like one event away from snapping, and you get that very much with Pearl. Mother and daughter mirror. You see a lot of themes in this film. Family is one of them. Pearl is a character, and again, this is spoiler free, I'm not spoiling anything, but Pearl is a character that is beholden to her family. She feels indebted to them. She is busy working for them. She is forced to grow up at a very young age and do things around the farm. And she's forced to kind of be this lowly farmhand who's forced to take care of her family and kind of follow under her mother's wing and footsteps and rule. And Pearl just wants to see the glitz and glamour. She wants to get out. She feels trapped. She feels isolated. She feels lonely. She feels repressed in her talents. She feels sexually repressed. Which leads to some pretty weird moments in this film. But you see the repression of Pearl, and you see in some of the mother's verbiage how she's very similar to the mother. It's a generational thing that is passed down. Some of the same desires and sacrifices and anger and psychopathy that Pearl faces are the same as her mother's, and her desire to escape those footsteps kind of make her tread in the same path as her mother did. So they hate each other, but love each other at the same time. They click and clash because their desires are kind of the same. You see a lot of Ruth and Pearl and vice versa, and that's exactly what Pearl does not want and desires to escape. And the more she tries to escape, the more her mental capabilities kind of revert back to the way that Ruth is. So this mother-daughter mirror is a really nice character study in this film. And finally, one more positive I have is Gore, because they don't use a lot of gore early on in the film. They really kind of hide a lot of it. You see some basic things, and they cut away. And some of the cutaways are really good, too. In the edit, they use some cutaways where you're just focused on one image, and you hear a sound in the background, or you see something move in the back of the background, and all of a sudden something happens off screen. And you don't really even see it, but the effect is still there, because you know what's happening. The thing you're looking at's a little bit chilling, and while it's a still image, you can hear some of the sound effects of things happening in the background. They use a particular shot where there's an animal that's going through something on screen that is really, really dark, and you're just like, oh, that's kind of a nasty visual. There's another one where an animal is just moving around in a shot, and something really dark is happening behind it. And you're like, wow, I can kind of see the situation on camera through this animal where nothing is happening on screen, but the noises and the animal's faces or visages really play well on screen. Now, getting to the negatives, guess what? I don't really have any. This is the first review I think that I've ever done, sans maybe a Halloween or a Psycho or something like that, where I don't have any glaring issues with this film. The acting was great. The pacing was great. The character's duality was great. You feel something for Pearl and almost kind of relate to her again. There are themes with the pandemic that you can understand. There is a desire to escape your home life, which we can understand. There's a pushing for something more, which we can understand. There's a repression and a loneliness that we can understand. The themes are dark, and Pearl takes many steps we wouldn't take and goes way too far, and her character devolves on screen in a lovely, linear but also non-linear way, where you also can kind of understand. You go, well, this person's totally psycho, but I get why they're psycho. They didn't just drive them over a cliff. They took Pearl slowly into a de-evolution where you kind of feel bad for her because she feels bad for her, and the family kind of feels bad for her. And they know what she is, but they also understand what she's trying to be. And she wants to be better, but she also wants to be worse. She kind of is sad about some things, and she also enjoys some things at the same time. Duality is so important when a character study, especially whenever it's a minimalist kind of devolving into psychopathy. This is really done well here. So I don't have any glaring negatives. Now, I might, watch it again and find something I don't like, or I might watch somebody else's review on YouTube because I haven't watched any yet, and I might find some things that I'm like, oh, I could have mentioned that, but they're very small, if anything. Again, the camera work, the acting, the editing, the story writing especially, the movement, the gore at the end of the film when they finally do use gore is really effective. They use some split screen shots and some long shots that are really effective. But this is the cinematography, the direction, and especially the character study are so strong and so time period authentic and so well paced. Even for an hour and 42, there are times that I say, oh, that could have been like an hour 20. That could have been a short film. An hour and 42 felt perfectly fine for me. The time flew by. Were there scenes they could have trimmed down by 20 seconds at a pop? Maybe, yeah. But I don't have any glaring negatives that jump out with me right now that really affect the film's rating for me. Is it perfect? No. No film is perfect at all. Is it going to be for everyone? No. People don't like prequels. People don't like period pieces. People don't like long shots. Sometimes they get bored. It's not for everyone. It's absolutely for me. I've really enjoyed this. I had a rating initially of 8 out of 10, but I look at my notes here. I'm going, you know what? This is a 9 out of 10. As much as I pleasantly was surprised by X, I came into this film expecting to like it and ready to appreciate it, but not sure what they were going to do with the prequel. And I like it much more than X. I think I gave X like a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10, and I had it in my top, I think, 4 for the year so far. I don't see anything unseating Pearl right now as my number 1. I love the black phone. I love Slapface was solid. Choose Your Die was solid. There are so many things that I like this year, especially in the second half of 2022. It's been very solid for horror. It's going to be hard to unseat this dark character study that is done so well. And now there's another one coming that is going to be a sequel to X. I won't spoil anything, but if you go to see this film, stay afterwards just for the little peek. Even the little peek they give you is not going to spoil anything. But Mac Triple X Scene is coming out, as you've probably seen by now on YouTube. But my goodness, what a film. If you've seen it, tell me in the comments below what you think. I've got it 9 out of 10 right now. And again, I might go a little easier later on as I take more time to think about this. But coming out of the theater and seeing it the way I saw it, I'm in love with this film. I'm in love with Ty West doing the best work of his career. It's the best thing A24 has done by a country mile for me. And Mia Goth is absolutely in my heart right now. So 9 out of 10. Tell me in the comments below what you think. Please like, share, and subscribe this video. Go check out the X review. Go, if you have not seen Pearl, go watch it and come back and watch this again to see what I'm talking about. And I will see you guys soon with another recently released film. So if there are more horror films in theaters you want me to review, please let me know and I'll review those. Take care and I'll see you soon. Stay scared.